Game Pass this November, guys, is stacked. I'm Sunny, and we're going to start this off with Metal Slug Tactics, and this is exactly what it sounds like. It's an actual Metal Slug game, but with tactical combat, and I'm really just as surprised as anyone else. We are not going to be running and gunning anymore, but instead, we are playing strategically to take down enemies in this intense grid-based tactical battles. Now, the good thing is we still have all our favorite characters from the classic series. Each have their own skills and abilities and weapons that we can use to fight a variety of different enemies and bosses. And for someone who loves pixel art like I do, I really think the game looks absolutely stunning and it's filled with detail. This one is set to arrive as a day one Game Pass game on November 5th for PC and console. So the game Techtonica has been on Game Pass for some time, but in early access. Well, players who've really been enjoying the game despite some of its issues are going to see that 1.0 release. And for those who don't know, this is a unique first-person factory automation game where you play as a miner stuck deep underneath this alien planet. Now, to escape, you're going to have to gather resources and build factories and research new tech to try and dig your way out of caves. And you can do this completely solo, or you can actually play with 3 other players on your side. Now, what's really cool about this 1.0 update is it is bringing in a lot of new content, including new machines and brand new production loops and a brand new desert biome, and of course a map that's going to be twice the size. This also arrives on November 7th on Game Pass, so this should be a good one if you've been holding out for this game to get its full release. Now, in case you didn't know, the game Ashen is now out on Game Pass. This is an action RPG from 2018, and it became quite a hit for its brilliant mix of action, survival, and open world exploration. It is a brutal game with challenging Souls-like combat and plenty of enemies and a lot of crazy big bosses that you have to fight, though it's actually been marked as one of the easier Souls-like games that's out there, so if you're intimidated by those games, don't be with this one. Luckily though, the game does give you a choice as well to team up with other players and maybe even make survival a little easier as well if you find it still too hard, or you could completely go alone if that's your thing. The game does look absolutely interesting and looks pretty nice. The visuals are definitely different. It's got equally darkness to it, but then really mysterious as well. This was on Game Pass some years ago, but it's come back and it should be a good one as it's available to play now. So a game that I've been looking forward to on Game Pass is the new Sniper Elite Resistance, one of the more awaited sniper games. This was actually supposed to drop this year, but it's actually been confirmed to launch on January 30th of next year. So this is going to be the latest addition to the fan favorite tactical shooter series, and from the looks of it, guys, it's going to take us straight into the heart of the action with an occupied France, and we take on some very high-stake missions in this upcoming action thriller, and this time we don't have to do this alone as well. This game also will have full-on co-op. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to end up looking, but it should be a good one either way, and I'm excited for that one. So we are getting Starcraft Remastered and Starcraft 2. Now, the multiplayer is already free, but with Game Pass, we are getting our hands on the paid campaign collections with no extra cost. Now, the remastered version brings back that original Starcraft game with tons of improvements, things like better visual quality and enhanced controls, and with that, we are also getting the Brood War expansion. Now, for Starcraft 2, we're getting not 1, but 3 legendary campaigns, including Wings of Liberty, Heart of the Sworn, and Legacy of the Void, and over 70 challenging missions as part of the Nova Covert Ops Pack. Plus, you also get to play co-op with your buddies in Commander mode if that's something you guys are going to be into. Now, you can play both of these games when they land on PC Game Pass here pretty soon on November 5th. Now, on that subject of remasters, we're actually getting one for the original Goat Simulator that gave birth to the most absurd simulation series ever, and we're talking about Goat Simulator Remastered. Now, the original one was on Game Pass, and the latest one, the Goat Simulator 3, was also on Game Pass, but I think this one right here is going to be really special because it not only improves upon that original, but it gives us access to all the DLC content that followed it. So we are going to be seeing things like better lighting, smoother animations, enhanced gameplay, and a ton of new content. So basically, guys, it's going to be the definitive way to get back into this crazy simulation game and really wreak havoc on anything and everything with your customizable goats. And by the way, if you're completely new to this franchise, this remastered version is a great way to drop into it because I really think you're just going to have mindless fun. This one is set to drop on Game Pass on November 7th. So we actually have one of the most anticipated simulation games of the year coming to Game Pass, and that is Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Now this new edition, guys, is really shaping up to be the most realistic rendition of planet Earth we have ever seen, and it's not going to be limited to just the aerial sightseeing anymore, and they are really going to be going all in. And guys, there's going to be tons of new missions that are going to have you doing crazy cool things like taking out wild forest fires with your water scooper, or saving lives as an air ambulance, or delivering cargo across different countries. There's also a ton of new aircrafts, each with their own specific purpose and flying mechanics. But what's even more interesting is that we're getting a more lifelike and dangerous planet this time around, filled with wildlife, marine creatures, and natural disasters like tornadoes, landslides, thunderstorms, and so much more. This one is set to arrive as a day one Game Pass game on November 19th. Now our next game is one that I have been paying attention to for so long, and I've been waiting for it, and that is S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. Now the game's been delayed multiple times, but hopefully this time it's going to stick around. And for someone who really has loved the original S.T.A.L.K.E.R game, guys, I honestly feel this sequel is going to be a must play. From everything that I've seen, it's really shaping up to be an awesome survival shooter, and we've got that same dark vibe but with like a heck of a lot more detail. And we're talking creepy mutants, dangerous factions, strange phenomenons, and crazy challenges. And the trailer has given us some really good insight into this game, and I gotta say, I am really digging the combat. It looks intense, it looks fast paced, and it just looks really fun. There's also plenty of new guns at our disposal, but scarce resources to really keep that gameplay grounded and tense and just making you wanting more. S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 is set to arrive on November 20th as another day one Game Pass release. So us Xbox players are getting a lot closer to getting our hands on Genshin Impact, and this is an awesome anime style ARPG that's already become quite a massive hit on a lot of other platforms, and it throws you into a gorgeous looking open world filled to the brim with life. And you can explore around, you can talk to a cast of colorful characters, you can take on a variety of different quests, you can engage in some intense battles against monsters using some really awesome and neat supernatural powers. And since the game's already free to play, it's going to come bearing gifts for those who are Game Pass subscribers. With Game Pass Ultimate, you're going to get access to a bunch of in-game bundles, cosmetics, and a ton of other cool stuff. Plus you get to play it on Xbox Cloud Gaming as well. So there's a lot of cool stuff. I know this isn't technically a Game Pass game, but I wanted to go ahead and add it because you get so many cool things being a Game Pass subscriber. And this one is set to land on Xbox, and for those with the extra perks of being a Game Pass subscriber, you get all that cool stuff on November 20th. Now another game that we Xbox players are getting access to is the game 9 Souls. This is a 2D action platformer, almost in the same vein as like a Hollow Knight, but I think this might be more challenging in terms of combat, which is actually kind of saying a lot because Hollow Knight's pretty strong, pretty tough too. Now for those who've played Souls-like games like Sekiro, you're gonna find 9 Souls combat pretty similar to that. You're gonna rely on things like parries and precision attacks to really beat your opponents, while even dashing around maps that look like the worth of mythological art combined with really cool futuristic vibes. This is a great game for anyone who really loves Metroidvanias and a lot of action, because this game really heavily focuses on it. 9 Souls is set to arrive on Xbox and of course Game Pass on the 26th of November. Now I want to take a look at some games that were recently announced, and we're going to start this off with Subnautica 2. This is the sequel to one of the most popular underwater games that we've ever seen. Guys, I mean really, the game is so full of life, and I for one have really enjoyed the exploration. There's really always something new and interesting that keeps you busy, and I really think we can expect the same from the sequel. And you know what, guys, I think this is what's really cool about this, is that you can now do this with a friend as well. It comes with awesome co-op support that I'm really looking forward to, and we only have that short teaser, but we can expect some more of the same amazing gameplay, but with fresh new content, enhanced visuals, and a ton of new challenges. This one is actually set to join Game Pass sometime in 2025. Now one of the more interesting games that have been announced for Game Pass was this one right here, and that is FBC Firebreak. This is a multiplayer shooter coming from the developers of insanely popular single games like Alan Wake and Max Payne, which I'm a huge fan of those games, so we know that this game is in great hands. But what's even more interesting is that it takes place in the same world as Control, and that's the same game where we had these awesome psychokinetic powers, and we're gonna go back to the mysterious mysterious facility filled with creepy mutant creatures and other enemies, but this time we're not actually going alone. The game actually lets you team up with 3 friends, which will make tackling those terrifying monsters a lot more interesting and even more manageable. Guys, there's still a whole lot to learn more about this game, but what's cool is it will have a full-fledged storyline, and FBC is really shaping up to be what looks like a very special game. This one is set to arrive sometime in 2025. Now, if you love games like Breath of the Wild or Tears of Kingdom, but you want to find something for Xbox, the game Eternal Strands is looking quite interesting. It's an action-adventure game where you play as a witch, or as they're calling it, a magic weaver, and you're on a wild adventure through this vast and gorgeous world full of monsters and supernatural challenges. And magic is going to be the core part of the gameplay. Whether it's interacting with the world around you, or fighting monsters, or tackling obstacles, you're going to be using your powers a lot. And no, it's not an open world game, but it will have a lot of open-ended levels, which I still think is pretty good, and we'll see how it comes out, but it looks like a very promising game, and it's set to arrive early 2025 as a Game Pass title. So we have a game that I love that's on Game Pass, and it's getting a really cool update, and No Man's Sky is that game. It's got a brand new expedition called The Cursed. This brings a totally different theme compared to the previous updates. It's far more sinister, with like these warping realities, these dark secrets, strange ghostly creatures, and this mysterious dark entity that you're gonna have to defeat. This comes really just in time for Halloween, so make sure you guys check out this update. I think this is one of the best Game Pass games on the market, you know, and it's one of those games that I think is highly underrated as well, because a lot of people don't talk about it because it's been around for so long. But this one is out on Game Pass, and so is this little update, so you're gonna want to check this out. Now, another game that looks really good is Wuchang Fallen Feathers. This is the Chinese Souls-like game that really caught our attention when it got announced a few months earlier. The first thing that really caught my eyes, besides its stunningly gorgeous visuals, were the combat mechanics. I think they look incredible. The movements are smooth, and the combat just looks really fluid. And this might not be something like Ghost of Tsushima for Xbox, but I think this game somehow is going to be scratching that itch, and who knows, man, maybe it could be better. And it brings in a similar mythological setting, and then you have those epic melee battles. But the brief trailer we have seen so far, it also shows some of those earlier bosses that we're going to end up facing, and I could tell, man, those bosses are going to be giving us a tough time, guys. Wuchang Fallen Feathers doesn't have a release date yet, but it is set to come out sometime in 2025. So there was this game called Ghost Bike that I talked about in one of my previous videos, but since then a lot has changed. First, it's now going to be called Wheel World, and apparently the story's also been changed as well. Instead of us racing other cyclers in Valhalla to revive a secret courier between life and death, we're actually going to be saving the world by participating in some major event, and that's really about all we got. This one is set to come out sometime in early 2025 as another Day 1 Game Pass release. And guys, we have some big news for Halo Infinite fans. For the first time ever, an official third-person mode is coming to a Halo game. While we don't know yet if it'll be available in the campaign, it's confirmed for multiplayer, and according to the announcement, this third-person mode will be supported at the mode level, so players won't be able to switch the perspective themselves, but with the Forge controls and the modes will be able to switch players between the first and third person's perspectives whenever they want. Now, it looks like it's still a work in progress, but we will get to know more soon, sometime when this comes out this November. Now, before we finish this video, guys, we have several games coming to Game Pass Standard on November 6th, and all of these are coming on November 6th. Now, if you happen to not have Game Pass Ultimate, but you have just the standard version, you're getting a decent amount of new games to look forward to, and we're going to start this with Mecha Ball, the twin-stick shooter arcade title that uses pinball physics. Our next game is Halibut. This is a narrative-based game where you're stuck in an alien planet in a submerged spaceship, and you're going to have a plethora of puzzles to solve, places to explore, and secrets to discover. Then we have the game Rewinder. This is a 2D puzzle adventure game inspired by Chinese folklore, where you'll have to enter people's minds and sway their decisions to change the course of history. Our next game is Turnip Boy Robs a Bank, and you're going to do exactly what that says. You're going to be robbing banks, battling the fuzz, planning and executing some of the most high-stake heists of all time. And then we finally have the game Botany Manor. This is a game all about puzzles and gardening. With that, guys, we have games leaving Game Pass this November 15th on the screen, including some decent titles, but I actually have a list of the best Game Pass games you can play this fall, so check out that video on the screen.